Good evening. Please enjoy the Chamin. Those who didn't take the Chamin yet, the Chamin is on the right, over there. So Ariel.
On your right, our left.
Yeah, I mean, of course. Yeah. So Parashat Hashavua is Parashat Chayei Sara. This week's Parashat Chayei Sara. There's a lot of interesting things. First, we start with the passing of Sara. Sara many passed away. But later on, we learn about Shidduchim. And there's a very interesting figure, very interesting person in our week's Parashat. And his name is Eliezer. Okay? But the verses in this Parashat we don't mention his name. The first time that we know that the servant of Avraham Avinu is Eliezer, everyone calls him Eliezer Eved Avraham, it's in Parashat Lech Lecha. Over there it says, Damesek Eliezer. Okay? And why is he called Damesek Eliezer? So, one of the explanations is because he came from a place called Damesek. Rashi brings three different explanations. One, because he came from Damesek, or he chased after the kings. As we know the story, the war between the kings, and Eliezer was part of it. And he chased after them until they reached a place called Damesek. Where's Damesek nowadays? Damesek is in Syria, right? There's a beautiful community in Brooklyn. What they call themselves, the domestic Jews, right? Damascus Jews. Okay. So the third pirush, Rashi says, is that whatever he learned from Avraham Avinu, he passed it over. Shedoleh ומלמד מתורתו של רבו לאחרים. So he's teaching the Torah to others. And now, based on this pirush, Avraham Avinu, when we first mentioned the story of Eliezer, he's complaining. He says, "You blessing me, I'm going to have many children. The only one I have in my house is Eliezer, that is taking care of the house, right? And he's also he's learning from Torah, but no more than that." But why is it that we are praising Eliezer at that point? Avraham Avinu really wanted somebody to continue his legacy. So we could simply say, you know what, Eliezer is teaching Torah to others. Whatever Avraham is teaching him, he's passing it over. Wonderful, Eliezer. But Avraham Avinu's complaint is, no, I don't want somebody like Eliezer, because Eliezer is only copy-paste. Whatever I teach him, he passes over. He's not creative. He's not creating new ideas, right? The point of education is not to just copy-paste, but also to be creative, right? To modelize things, to base on the generation, right? As we know, sometimes there's the big difference, as we would say, between Islam and Judaism, that Islam is stuck in the past. Whatever is written in their book, that's how they explain it until today. But in Judaism, we try to fit. We're not changing the Torah, but we try to fit the concepts of Torah to our generation, right? So that's what's beautiful in the Torah. The Torah itself gives us power to really fit the Torah, to use the Torah and really not to change the Torah, but really give it a new interpretation based on the needs of that every generation. Okay? But if you're going to explain any book that was written 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, and try to follow this book in your generation 2,000 years after, it's not going to work. Okay? So it's true that's what's beautiful in our Torah. It's true that it was written, it was given to us 3,300 years ago, but we know how to, of course, based on the principles, we know how to fit it to our generation, to make it approachable, understandable, to make it available. Because there's many things in Torah that we cannot really understand. We don't have time for examples, but that's very important. So Avraham Avinu basically is saying that we should not copy paste anything. We should be creative, and that's why he told him, go outside, look up, and look at the stars, right? Why did he give him this example of stars? Why didn't he give him other example? What's the specific of the stars? Because every single star is shining in a different way, right? Every star has its beauty. And that's what Hashem, that's what Avraham is asking from Hashem. Please give me a son that will teach others, but will understand the need of every single individual, and the Torah will be available and approachable for this individual. But not just to teach the Torah as it is and not to change anything. I have a serious problem with my servant. That was his complaint. Therefore, HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him, don't worry, I will give you a son. I will give you sons, children like stars. Each one will have a different way and will teach and make it will make sense to us. But this is not the first place where we mention the name Eliezer. Okay? There's prior to that we have the story was as we mentioned when they captured Lot, right, his nephew. Okay? So it says Vayarek et chenichav. It means that he armed his trained man. Okay? And he helped them. And over there it says how many people? 318. If you look at the numerical value of 318 is Eliezer, right? And that's the first place. It's of course not written explicitly, but it's a hint about Eliezer. Okay, there's something also fascinating about Eliezer that says Kafza lo haderech. What does it mean? That the road jumped for him. That he was like the pasuk says Vava yom el ha'ain. That day he came. Today to the spring. I mean, that day he came. Okay? So that was a very long distance, but he had a kfitzat derech, right? That it was a long way, but Hashem helped him and it got very short. Okay? It's interesting also to know that Eliezer, there's an argument who exactly Eliezer was. Some hold that he was the son of Nimrod. Is anyone familiar with Nimrod? Nimrod was a very mighty, strong king, and Eliezer was his son. Some explain that he was Og Melech HaBashan. It's a big argument. We're not sure who exactly it is. And his reincarnation is a Kalev ben Yefuneh. Reincarnation of Eliezer was Kalev ben Yefuneh.
How come Eliezer be Og Melech HaBashan? You know that Og Melech HaBashan told Avraham to go to fight the four kings.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's many arguments about it. Yeah, but most Mefarshim agree that his name is Nimrod. So we learned that Eliezer was a fascinating person, and the Midrashim also talk about the interesting stories about Eliezer. Okay, so that's in a nutshell Eliezer. And there's another thing that there's 10 people that jumped alive into Gan Eden. Who doesn't want to jump alive into Gan Eden? One of them was Eliezer. Eliezer jumped alive in Gan Eden. He has no grave, right? There's no place to go. He's up there in Gan Eden. Rabbi Shimon Levi, many others, Ya'abetz, and many other rabbis. There's 10. Can't remember all the 10 people, but there's 10 people that we know that they went alive into Gan Eden. And I mentioned last week there's many funny stories, a lot of funny stories about Eliezer. Maybe I'll share one of them. Is that if you remember last week, it was Friday night, that he used to walk to Sdom, and we know Sdom. It's a place of wicked, terrible people, right? And they had this way of Aaron. We just spoke about Kfitzat Derech. We learned last week about the story of Eliezer that somebody threw a stone on his forehead. So he took this person to court, and the judge says, Eliezer, you need to pay to that person that threw a stone on my head. What do you mean? He threw on me the stone. I need to pay him. He needs to pay me. So no, look, what he did is, there's something called a kazat dam. It's bloodletting, right? That's very healthy. So he did service, right? He kind of was it was a doctor for far away, yeah? So that's why you have to pay him. So Eliezer didn't think twice. He took a few stones from his pocket, he threw it on the judge, and he told the judge, the money that I need to give him, you give him. That's one story. Another story about Eliezer is that it was so terrible, wicked, that they didn't want to invite anyone to come to any wedding. And there was a punishment. What was the punishment? The punishment was that if somebody that's what the Gemara in Sanhedrin tells us the story. If a person will go to the wedding and he would ask, who invited you? And you say, Reuben invited me. They will have to take him and remove all of his clothes in the wedding to embarrass him. So Eliezer was hungry, and he went to this wedding. And somebody, and he knew about this custom. So when somebody asked him, hey, who invited you to come to this wedding? He said, out loud, you invited me. This person was terrified. No, I didn't invite you. No, you invited me. So he immediately went away. Another person came to him. Who invited you? You invited me. So, but turns out that he was by himself at that wedding and he ate all the food, right? Okay, so he was very smart, Eliezer, at the same time. Well, many other stories about Sdom. Okay. So as we get into the story of the first Shatchan, matchmaker. The first matchmaker is Eliezer. He's looking for a wife for Yitzchak, and he makes this Tanai. He makes this condition. What's the condition? The condition is that if there will be this lady that will serve this, to give the water to me and the camels, then I will know it will be a good sign to me that this will be the future wife for my son's master, Yitzchak Avinu. And there's a big question here. We know that in Halakha you're not allowed to do any nichush. What is nichush? Nichush is like, okay, if this will happen, then I will do this one. How do you say it in English? Nichush. Like you give
Superstition.
what? Superstition? What?
Superstition.
Superstition? Nichush? No. Guessing, yeah, but guessing in a negative way. What?
You're making a condition.
No, it's a word, nichush. Guessing, it's a... Yeah, it's like... Nichush is like, if this thing will happen, I will do that. Guessing, yeah, but you know what? Guessing, but in a very negative way. The Shulchan Aruch says that it could be a problem. The Rambam says that we should not learn this thing that Eliezer did. It was not good. It was wrong. Why was it wrong? Because you're not allowed to make any conditions. Hashem will help you, and that's the end of the world. Why do you have to say, if a lady will come and offer me something to drink and also would give water to the camels, that will be a sign for me that this lady is the right one, is the right candidate for my son's master. Why are you making this nichush? It's wrong. The Rambam therefore says you're not allowed to do it. The Ravad, however, says he really criticizes Rambam. And if you look at the Ravad, Rabbi Avraham ben David, many times he criticizes the Rambam was very, sometimes, he uses those tough words, and that's what he does. That's what he does. And he says, no, how can he say such a thing? How can he say that Eliezer did this mistake? And therefore there's an argument, and he says that you're allowed to do it. And there's few reasons why it's mutar, why it's permissible. First reason is what the Ran says. Ran says that you're allowed to make a sign when it makes sense. Right? What is he looking for? What is Eliezer? Somebody was good midot, a good person, honest person, good traits, easygoing. Eliezer, that's what he's looking for. And that's why he's using this sign. It makes sense. If he would say, if I hear thunder or lightning, then I will know that's wrong. But if he's really using something that is associated with his mission, like this example of saying, if she will be kind to me, that's wonderful. Rabbeinu Nissim says that's why in this particular case it's permissible. Radak, Rabbi David Kimchi, comes out with a different answer. He says, when are we saying that you learn how to give a guess, to take a guess or give a guess? Give a guess. To take a guess. It's only when it's like customs of the Gentiles. Chok. It's a decree. Something that doesn't make sense. But if he's really creating this guess, like in this case, then that's mutar. Okay, that's what Rabbeinu David. Therefore, the Shulchan Aruch says that you're allowed to do it, and you're allowed to do it, but those that are pious shall keep away from it. That's what the Shulchan Aruch says. He brings the argument between the Rambam and the Ravad. Rambam says it's asur, and Eliezer was wrong. Ravad says it's mutar, and his conclusion is it's mutar, but it's better to keep away. Siman Kufain Tet.
Oh, right. So he's going the Ravad against the Rambam.
Yeah, because many other Rishonim argue with the Rambam.
No.
Okay, so we have a very important halakha that we should know. The Gemara in Yoma tells us that one is not allowed to give a name after a wicked person. That's the halakha. So somebody came to the Mabit. Mabit was a great rabbi in Tzfat 500 years ago. And he told him, hey, my name is Eliezer. And Eliezer was a big question mark about his characteristics, because Eliezer wanted his daughter to marry Avraham Avinu. And Avraham Avinu said, "En arur nidbak bebaruch." Avraham. He wanted his daughter to marry Yitzchak. Yitzchak, yeah. So he came to Avraham Avinu. I'm saying he came to Avraham Avinu, and Avraham Avinu said no. Why? Because he said, "En arur nidbak bebaruch." You are coming from Canaan. Canaan it's a cursed nation, and I'm blessed, right? Of course, he explained it in a nice way. Of course, he's a pillar of chesed. It was not like you were cursed. Of course not. That's the essence of what he was saying. So, if that's the case, we have a problem here. He came to him in the Mabit. I want to change my name. My name is Eliezer, and I don't like this name. So the Mabit told him, there's another Eliezer in the Bible, in the Tanakh, that was righteous, and that is the son of Moshe Rabbeinu. Right? So so that's another. So you were called after the second Eliezer, not the first Eliezer. But what? Yeah, the Tana was called after. Yeah, I mean after that, he also was called after. He asked the question on behalf of all the Eliezerim. But that's the answer he gave. That everyone is called after the second Eliezer, not the first Eliezer. However, the Chidah doesn't like this answer, and he says that he gives us few answers. One answer, he says that Eliezer was not wicked. As we all know, Eliezer was a very nice person. It happened to be that he comes from a cursed nation, but it doesn't mean anything about him. In fact, he really changed the situation, and as we know, as we learn the Parashat, that he changed the curse into a blessing. That's what Eliezer did. After his mission, after he completed this mission, he changed the status, and so you see that you can change a curse into a blessing, even if you were born that way, so to speak. One can change everything, anything. That's the first answer of the Chidah. So Eliezer, in fact, was a tzaddik. Okay, there's another answer that that the name is a nice name. The Chidah says, Eliezer. We don't care that he was called after wicked. If some wicked people are called Eliezer, so what? But Eliezer, what is the meaning of Eliezer? Hashem helps me, right? So that's a nice name, so you're allowed to do it. The third answer, the Chidah says, that who gave the name to the son of Moshe Rabbeinu? Because the question could be also upon Moshe Rabbeinu. How can you give your son Eliezer if Eliezer, so to speak, was wicked? The answer is Hashem gave the name. If Hashem gave the name, that's not a problem. Hashem decided that's a good name. So that's the three answers by the Chidah answering this question. So the majority of the parasha is really the story of Sichatan Shel Avdei Avot. It's really the conversation of the servants of our fathers. Right? That's how the rabbis call it. Sichatan, Yafa Sichatan Shel Avdei Avot. The conversations, the talk of the servants of our fathers are very interesting, very important for us to learn. We have to learn something from it. Okay? So let's learn. And we also can see that it's redundant. Like first time we learn about the story. The first time Eliezer is really telling the story to Rivka's family. So we learn a bit. We read the story twice, right? The second time we read it, it's not really so interesting, right? The first time we already know the story. Okay, so what can we ask about this story? First, why does Eliezer need to pray? Why can't we rely? We look at the pasuk. The pasukim say that Eliezer started to pray and Hashem, please help me. If Avraham Avinu is sending you, and Avraham Avinu is praying for you, why does he need to pray? Why can't you rely on Avraham Avinu? And the second question we have, when you decide that this lady is the right lady to be appointed for Yitzchak, so then you give the jewelry. But what happened here was the opposite. First, he gave the jewelry, and then he asked, "But miat." Then he asked, "Who are you?" Right? You don't go out on a date, give some jewelry, and then okay, let's see if we match. Right? It doesn't work that way. So that's what happened here. What did he do? First, he gave the jewelry. She was great. She did something fascinating. She offered some water. Okay, beautiful. Then, but miat. Then he asked the questions. Okay, who are you? Tell me a bit about yourself. You don't do it, right? You're going to waste all of your money, right? And some ladies, of course, will take advantage of you. So should be careful with it. So why was Eliezer acting that way? The third question we have on the story is when he went into the house. Then okay, who are you? He said, look, I don't want to tell you my story until I don't want to eat anything until I tell you the story. Okay, it says Lo uchal ad dibarti itchem. Until I speak with you. Ad dibarti b'devarai. Okay, until I tell you the story. So why was it so urgent? And the fourth reason is, why didn't he agree? Because they asked, please, you know what? Okay, we accept the offer. Rivka will go with you and she will get married with Yitzchak. We accept that. But let us stay yamim or so, a few days or a month here, and then she will go. No, please, let her go, and I don't want her to stay here. I mean, this is four different things here that we learn in the story. That's very weird. So what's the story here? So all of those questions can be answered by what Saba ben Novardok says. We mentioned before that Eliezer really wanted Yitzchak to marry his daughter. It was very painful for him. He was very close to Avraham Avinu, and he was teaching Torah. Whatever he learned, he was his talmid. He was a student. He was the best student ever one can have. Right? Not just teaching, not teaching others what he learned, but also serving him. He was the best student. So why didn't he want? Why didn't Avraham Avinu want to offer his son? So the answer is mentioned before because of. So Eliezer was very painful. Feel very bad about it. So he's also maybe she won't want to come. He trying to make all these tricks. But Eliezer said, one second, but I have a mission. If I'm loyal, if I'm sincere, and if I'm faithful to my master, I have to do what he wants. And the Rambam, the Maimonides, says something interesting. He says when a person feels that he's biased, he has nigya, right? He feels that he wants to ruin the thing, right? He doesn't really want to look for. He wants his daughter to marry Yitzchak. He doesn't want to find a daughter for Yitzchak. He doesn't want somebody else. He wants his daughter. So he will do everything possible to avoid this situation. But Eliezer need to override this feeling, okay, of nigiyah. He was biased, so that he did everything. So that's why he refused. He did so many weird things in the story, like please don't ask me, don't ask her to stay. Okay, why? Because maybe she will change her mind. Maybe maybe I will change my mind. Maybe I'll be able to convince Avraham that she doesn't want. And that's why as soon as I saw, I gave her jewelry because I was sure that's the right one. So he did all those things because he really wanted to keep away. And I like the Rambam says that when you feel that you're biased, then you have to be extreme with the other side. Usually the Rambam says go in the middle path. That's the right thing to do. But when a person always feels that he's difficult for him to control himself with any negative traits that he has, the Rambam says, okay, be extreme, and then slowly go back in the middle. And that's exactly what Eliezer did in this story. It was extreme. He said, now, don't wait. Give the jewelry. He didn't want to eat until I tell you the story. I don't want to waste my time here. Right? I really want to fulfill my mission as soon as possible, because otherwise, it will give me time to think. I will buy time, right? He doesn't want it, and that's what Eliezer did. The story is that Eliezer was following the Rambam's approach here. Okay, so as we mentioned before, in this week's parasha, we don't really mention his name, Eliezer. It doesn't mention in the entire parasha Eliezer. Only in Lech Lecha, yeah? Damascus Eliezer, that's the only place. But we sometimes use the word ish, vaish mishta'eh, and sometimes we use the word Eved Avraham. So why sometimes are we using Eved, the slave, the servant, and sometimes we use ish, the man? So the answer is that up to the point where he saw Rivka, he was called the servant of Avraham. But once he saw Rivka, but he also saw something fascinating. There was a miracle. What was the miracle? That the water was coming towards her. So that was a miracle. Water don't like greet you. That was the story here. So she clearly saw the hand of Hashem, and then he realized what Avraham Avinu told him that there will be an angel, right, that will protect you and will follow you and accompany you. And then finally he saw this angel. And Ish is an angel. Yeah? As we learn in many places, Ish is Eliezer. So once Eliezer saw the hand of Hashem, in other words, he saw the angel that's really protecting and really following him and really helping him with all the story, we change his name. He's not Eved, he's not a slave, a servant of Avraham Avinu anymore. He is called Ish, because he saw the hand of Hashem, he saw the angel, so to speak. Okay? And the main request of Avraham Avinu is don't take any daughters from Canaani, but only from Aram Naharaim, from Haran. Why? What's the difference? Halalu avdei avodah zarah, halalu avdei avodah zarah. They're both idol worshippers. They're both terrible people.
Wait, to take from where?
What?
To take from where?
Haran. Okay? And not to take from Canaan. But they're both not good people. Right? What does Rashi explain? What is Anochi that I would clean the house? From what? From Avodah Zarah, from Avodah Zarah. So they were both idol worshippers. So what's the difference between those two things? Two places, Aram Naharaim and Eretz Canaan. What's the difference? They're both, so to speak, negative people. So the answer is that with Canaan, there were terrible people, there were bad people, but not because they were idol worshippers, but because they had bad traits. They were not good people, similar to Sodom. They were not good people. And to change a person's trait is very difficult, right? But if there's a place where they serving idols, okay, it doesn't mean that they're bad people. Okay? It means that they are wrong. But there's some people that they're corrupt. Right? There's corruption. The story of the flood, corrupted. The people of Sodom are corrupted. And people of Eretz Canaan also corrupted people. Very, very negative people. And it's very difficult, even impossible to change this human trait that they have. This negative trait. And that's why you're asking, go over there. Yeah, it's true that they are idol worshippers, but we can change them. And you can see the story. Rivka, wonderful. Right? Rachel, Leah, they're all great people. And they changed, and they were against their father, Lavan, against Bethuel, because they were not bad people. Okay. What's interesting here that we see the example of Bil'am. What we learn is that you can be a very, very spiritual person, and you can speak with Hashem, and yet be corrupted with bad midot. Bil'am spoke with Hashem, and yet he was rasha, he was wicked. Right? It's not a contradiction. Very interesting. There's no contradiction. What? Who? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, but still, you see that it could be. It doesn't mean everyone is perfect there. Yeah. Of course. Yeah. Anyway, that's why Avraham Avinu asked, please go there and don't take from Eretz Canaan, because there's a profound distinction between those two groups of people, and that's why Eliezer was not excited when he saw the water coming towards him. Why? Because so what? It doesn't say anything about the midot. He was still waiting to see if the midot, if she's a good lady or not. The fact that the miracles happen, so what? Miracles doesn't mean that you're a good person. Sometimes you can see great people doing wonderful things, but then, they are bad people. Okay? So you have to be careful from those things, from those people. That's why Avraham Avinu told him, go over there and see if you can get somebody that really has a good midot, and eventually that's what he did, and he found Rivka. So I want to end, we have 1 minute, to end with the halachic story. We talk about shidduchim. Right? So let me say a real story. There was a person that was many years looking for a shidduch, looking to get married. And he had some friends in yeshiva, but he also had some enemies in yeshiva that didn't really like him. So one of them really wanted to make fun of him. So he told him, I have a good shidduch for you. I have somebody good for you. Lives over the corner, 2 blocks away, with a great family, wonderful. And the meeting will be in 2 days at 8 o'clock. So don't miss this meeting. She's a great girl from a good place, good seminar, good whatever. A list of all the good things you have. 8 o'clock, go there. And B'ezrat Hashem, I hope they will have a great shidduch. Oh, I can't thank you for that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, after a few days, he goes to this house, he knocks on the door, And this guy's opening. Somebody opens the door. Yeah, how can I help you? I'm here for a date. He says, what are you talking about? It's no date. I mean, my friend, he really organized all this, and that's why I'm here. He's embarrassed. He's changing colors. So, and he says, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, okay, I'm so sorry. I said, okay, maybe I missed. I went to the wrong place. So he called his friend. Well, what do you? I mean, this guy is not. He said he doesn't know what I'm talking about. Oh no, guess this number, that number. So that's what I did. Okay, so go again. He told him, go again. Okay, this guy went again, and knocked at the door. So yes, how can I help you? I said, sorry to bother you again, but my friend told me this is the door, number 8, this or that. Your Mishpachat Cohen? Yeah, Mishpachat Cohen. The girl is named Rivka. Yeah, Rivka Cohen. So he told me that I need to. I said, look, I don't know what you're talking about. This is not the place. But then he started to ask. He saw that he's a nice boy. He started asking questions. Okay, where do you go? Which yeshiva do you go? That place. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. Which family are you? He asked many questions, some questions. So you know what? Give me a few days. This person that at the house. Give me a few days. Okay? So he gives him a few days, and he said, you know what? He called his father. The father's boy that got embarrassed. He called him and said, please tell your son to come, but this time for real. Come, actually have a girl, and maybe I think it can work. Okay, after a few days, he knocks on the door. Oh, well, now this is my big welcome. Come in, and he had his date, sitting with his girl, a few hours, and they get engaged. So, this friend didn't expect all this. Now he's asking for money. He wants to get paid. A real story. He wants to get paid. I did the shidduch. If I won't tell you to go, you won't find this place. You wouldn't know even about this family. I'm asking you to pay me. And how much do you pay? Depends if Ashkenazi or Sephardi. It doesn't mention that in the story. But Ashkenazim, they pay $2,000, something like that. Sephardim give a bunch of flowers. I guess he was flowers and falafel or something. I guess he was Ashkenazi. Okay. So I want my $2,000. He told him. So look, what are you crazy? Tell me thank you for not like embarrassing you in front of everyone and telling what a terrible thing you did to me. You want me now to pay you? So no, I did it. So they went to Beit Din. They went to court. And the rabbis, so the answer is, the rabbi said that on one hand, he needs to pay. Why? That's only one hand. Why? Because the Gemara in Bava Metzia says, "Hayored l'sadeh shel chavero." The Gemara says over there that if somebody didn't get permission to go and to plant in his friend's field, and he did it, and let's say this field is a place where it's supposed to be planted. It's not a field of pits and caves. It's like a proper field, right, that you can plant. And he did it without asking permission. He needs to give him some money, like a worker, not for the cost of the expenses, but like a worker, like $20 an hour. That's what he needs to give him. So the same thing here. That he needs to give him like not 2,000 but something. But the Nitivot says, Nitivot is a big book that all the yeshivot are learning. On the other hand, he says that no, he doesn't need to pay. Why? Because the Gemara Nazir says somebody that have in mind to eat pork and by mistake he ate kosher food. The Gemara says tzarich kapara. He needs atonement. Although he ate kosher food, but in his mind he wanted to eat pork. On the other hand, the Chaim HaKadosh says in Parashat Ve'echi that Yosef HaTzadik told his brothers, you don't need any atonement. Why? Because what you were planning to do, Hashem twisted it, changed it, and it became a good thing. Right? That now I'm a king, so you have no atonements whatsoever. So there's kind of a contradiction. And so Kli Chemda and others explain that there's a difference between Ben Adam Lamakom, Ben Adam Lechavoro. If it's Ben Adam Lamakom, between us and our fellow, between us and Hashem, then he needs sorry, I mixed. Sorry. Again, let's start again. I mixed it. On one hand, we have the Gemara, okay? was this field. On the other hand, we have the Netivot. The Netivot says, if somebody tells his friend, come and live with me, come and we eat with me, okay? And then he tells them, look, and he didn't tell him you have to pay for that, right? And then he asked for money. The halacha is that if he didn't mention the money at the very beginning, he doesn't need to pay him anything. So the Netivot says, based on this, he doesn't need to pay anything. This person, of course, didn't want to get paid. The opposite, he wanted to embarrass him. He didn't want to get paid. Okay? So that's why the Netivot here says that he doesn't need to pay. So the halacha is, doesn't need to pay. Now when I mentioned the other story about the pork, this and that, that's about atonement. Does he need atonement? Doesn't need atonement. That's different halacha. There's a person now, he did a good thing, but his intention was bad. He didn't want to do a good thing. Does he need atonement? Doesn't need atonement. So on one hand, we have the Gemara Nazir that says that he needs to have atonement. He needs atonement, even if he's eating kosher food. But since he wanted, his attention was to eat non-kosher food, that's a problem. On the other hand, we have Yosef HaTzadik that he told his brothers you don't need any atonement. It's a contradiction. Kli Chemda says that it depends. If it's something between us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, like the pork, like the kosher food, then you have to have atonement. But if it's between us and our fellow friends, and you did a good thing, it turned out to be a good thing, although you had negative intention, doesn't matter, and you don't have to pay. He doesn't need to have any kapara. So this boy, of course, doesn't get the money. He doesn't need kapara. Doesn't need atonement. But of course, he did a bad thing. But to see Hashem changes things into a good thing. So that's a.
I hope he was invited to the wedding.
Yeah, that I'm not. That I think it will be the third question. That I think will be the third question. I didn't see it in the book, but I guess he didn't invite him. Right? Only for the chuppah, not for the, not to eat anything.
And he has to pay for busha.
Yeah, but it turned out to be a good thing.
Still, there was some embarrassment initially.
Yeah, so Yosef HaTzadik also, he went through pain. And yet he said, okay, but it turned out to be a good thing. So, and he doesn't need atonement, despite the fact that he went through pain. But this boy also...
I'm saying that you could argue from the monetary perspective that whatever money you owe for the shidduch is offset by the money that you need to pay for the busha.
Okay, that could be a later on discussion in the בית המדרש בעזרת השם. אוקיי, רבי חנן בקשה אומר, רצה הקדוש ברוך הוא לזכות ישראל לפקח יבא להם